Guan Tianpei refused to abandon his post. He remained with his men and died during the fighting he commanded.
Watching from the riverbank, I realized courage alone could not overcome weapons designed for an entirely different era.
Those old guns never had a real chance against this.
Okay, before we start, understand this. I have walked through wars, plagues, revolutions, and disasters, but nothing hit me like Canton in 1839. I have stood where kingdoms died and armies vanished, yet stepping into southern China felt different, like history holding its breath.
Because this story is not about religion or territory. It is about addiction, trade, power, and what happens when profit outruns morality. One empire wants to stop a poison destroying its people. Another wants the money to keep flowing. Everything else grows from that.
What follows will break cities, reshape governments, and leave wounds that remain visible in Chinese memory nearly 2 centuries later. I arrived through the Pearl River Delta beneath thick humidity, surrounded by sails, river traffic, and a level of activity that felt endless. Canton immediately overwhelms the senses. Boats crowd every channel while merchants bargain loudly across docks loaded with goods from abroad.
This city matters because it is the only legal port where foreigners may trade with China, making it the empire's narrow doorway.
Imagine controlling all outside commerce through one location. Every foreign ambition, every shipment, every dispute eventually passes here.
The Qing government keeps a firm grip on access, yet fortunes move through these streets daily, carried by merchants and officials.
The smells reach me first. Incense drifts through the air beside roasting pork, drying fish, river mud, spices, and wood smoke.
The river itself is alive. Sampans weave between cargo junks while floating vendors sell food, fruit, and supplies from tiny boats. Women paddle confidently through crowded waterways, offering produce directly to customers without ever stepping onto dry land.
I nearly ended my trip early by leaning too far while filming one boat and almost falling straight into the river below.
The vendor laughed, everyone else laughed. My complete inability to speak Cantonese did absolutely nothing to improve the situation.
After hours exploring the city, I found a guest house near the foreign trading district and finally stopped moving for the day.
The room was simple even by 19th century standards. Bare walls, sparse furnishings, and little beyond what survival required.
The bed consisted of a wooden frame supporting a woven grass mat. There was no mattress hiding underneath to save me. Instead of a pillow, guests received a ceramic headrest, essentially a shaped block intended to support the neck during sleep.
I gave the ceramic pillow a fair chance, which is to say I used it briefly before deciding my jacket was superior. Historical accuracy is admirable, but not enough to convince me that sleeping on fired clay is somehow a luxury experience. Dinner arrived as rice congee served with preserved duck egg and dried pork, a combination both unfamiliar and surprisingly inviting. The preserved egg was completely black. I spent so long staring at it that the woman serving dinner became concerned. She watched with the patient expression of someone who had seen countless foreigners question their life choices at this exact moment. Finally, she told me to stop staring and eat. According to her, the meal would make me strong. The tone was decisive. Tried it and immediately understood the appeal. Rich flavors, creamy textures, and balanced saltiness transformed my expectation. But while I was discovering local cuisine, a far larger story was unfolding outside. Beneath daily life, China was nearing a crisis. To understand the crisis forming around Canton, you need to understand one thing above all else. The entire story turns on opium. For decades, British merchants had imported Indian opium into China, despite laws banning it and repeated attempts to stop the trade. The profits were extraordinary. Demand kept growing, merchants kept selling, and addiction spread faster than officials could contain it. By 1839, millions of Chinese citizens were dependent on opium, while vast quantities of silver left the empire to pay for it. The consequences reached far beyond addiction. Families suffered, productivity fell, and confidence in government authority weakened steadily. The Qing emperor decided stronger action was necessary and appointed Commissioner Lin Zexu to confront the growing disaster directly. Lin arrived in Canton with a reputation for honesty, discipline, and determination. He had not come to negotiate endlessly. Almost immediately, he demanded foreign merchants surrender their opium stocks, making it clear the old compromises were over. Right, so many traders assumed China would eventually retreat under pressure. Instead, Lin escalated enforcement with remarkable persistence. Soon, authorities seized more than 20,000 chests of opium, representing an immense financial loss for foreign interests. News spread rapidly through Canton. Some residents celebrated openly, while merchants worried about the consequences of such action.
I traveled to Human, where preparations were underway for one of the most dramatic anti-drug operations in history.
Workers dug massive trenches near the shoreline,
creating long pits designed specifically for destroying the confiscated narcotics. The trenches were filled with seawater and lime. Officials wanted the opium ruined beyond any possibility of recovery or resale. Then the destruction began. Chest after chest was opened, and workers dumped the contents into the prepared trenches. The process continued day after day. What looked like dark sludge represented fortunes worth millions to foreign merchants. Crowds gathered constantly to watch. Many viewed the operation as proof that the Qing government was finally taking action. Yet beneath the celebration lingered anxiety. People suspected Britain would not simply accept such enormous losses without reacting. An older merchant standing nearby noticed my camera and stared at it with immediate suspicion, unsure what he was seeing.
What is that thing you carry?
A foreign device for recording events,
Recording events?
so people far away can see what happened.
My dear time traveler from the future, go ahead and record everything. Tell the foreigners that China is not afraid to defend itself against pressure.
The people around us approved of his statement, though their expressions revealed uncertainty about what might happen next. Everyone understood the stakes. Destroying the opium was more than law enforcement. It challenged powerful economic interests. Events escalated rapidly afterward. Relations between foreign communities and Chinese authorities became increasingly tense and fragile. Then a group of drunken sailors attacked a Chinese villager. His name was Lin Zexu. They beat him so badly that he died. Commissioner Lin demanded the responsible men be handed over for trial in Chinese courts, treating it as a test case. The legal issue has become a matter of principle. The British refused, insisting their citizens could not be judged under Chinese law. The path toward open war was set. By 1840, the dispute had become a military conflict. Britain deployed warships to Chinese waters and prepared to force concessions. I eventually found myself aboard a British vessel, where the technological gap between both sides became impossible to ignore. These ships were floating fortresses, carrying heavy guns, trained crews, and capabilities that many Qing commanders had never faced. Nothing demonstrated that advantage more clearly than the steam-powered iron vessel. It was unlike anything previously seen. This vessel appears strangely modern. It belongs to the future. Its iron hull resisted many traditional attacks, while its engines and guns allowed it to operate where enemies struggled. A British naval officer stood beside me, admiring the vessel with obvious pride, as though it settled every argument. I asked whether forcing opium into a country that banned it could really be justified. Can I ask you something? If China outlawed opium, how do you justify continuing to bring it here?
We are opening markets and expanding trade. Nations prosper when commerce moves freely. History rewards those who embrace progress.
He said it with complete confidence. That conviction stayed with me. Many participants truly believed they were advancing progress rather than imposing exploitation. The war intensified at the Bogue forts, which guarded the narrow passage, controlling access to Canton from the sea. Chinese defenders prepared carefully, positioning guns along both sides of the channel and waiting for the British approach. Commanding the defense was Admiral Guan Tianpei, a respected veteran determined to resist despite overwhelming disadvantages. What followed felt less like a balanced battle and more like a demonstration of industrial power against older methods.
British artillery batter fortifications relentlessly, while many Chinese cannons struggled to damage the advancing ships.
Smoke rolled across the water. Explosions echoed between the shores. Defensive positions collapsed with alarming speed. The entire defensive system is systematically falling apart. Guan Tianpei refused to abandon his post. He remained with his men and died during the fighting he commanded.
Watching from the riverbank, I realized courage alone could not overcome weapons designed for an entirely different era.
Those old guns never had a real chance against this.
An elderly fisherman nearby stared silently before admitting the old guns had never stood a realistic chance.
After Canton came more setbacks. City after city fell under pressure as British victories accumulated across the region.
By 1842, negotiations began in Nanjing, beneath the shadow of warships and the threat of even greater destruction.
The Treaty of Nanking forced China to cede Hong Kong, open treat ports, and pay enormous financial penalties.
It also established privileges for foreigners that weakened Chinese legal authority within parts of its own territory. When I arrived in Shanghai years later, foreign settlements operated with remarkable independence inside a Chinese city. European architecture, foreign police, and separate administration created the feeling of overlapping worlds occupying the same space.
Over there, inside the foreign settlement, I cannot simply walk where I wish. Permission is needed.
A Chinese dock worker pointed toward the settlement boundary and explained he could not freely enter without permission. The restriction was striking. On Chinese soil, some Chinese citizens faced limits that many foreigners did not encounter. Then came the Arrow Incident of 1856, which Britain used as justification for renewed military intervention against China. France joined the campaign as well, citing the killing of a missionary and adding further pressure to the conflict. This second war expanded beyond the coastal ports. The Allied powers now intended to push toward Beijing itself.
I followed the expedition north and watched enormous forces advance through territory already damaged by earlier fighting.
The Taku forts fell, Tianjin was taken, and the road toward the Qing capital became increasingly exposed. As Allied armies approached Beijing, the emperor fled rather than remain in a city facing occupation and defeat.
Outside Beijing stood the Yuanming Yuan, known in English as the Old Summer Palace, one of the empire's treasures. Before describing its destruction, I need you to understand what the palace represented to generations of Qing rulers. The complex contained gardens, lakes, pavilions, archives, artworks, and collections assembled across more than a century. Scripts, jade carvings, bronze vessels, paintings, and scientific instruments filled spaces unlike anywhere else in China.
French troops entered first and began looting. British troops followed, and the removal of treasures accelerated rapidly.
Then Lord Elgin ordered the palace burned, transforming a site of immense cultural value into a target of punishment. I stood outside as the fires began. Thick smoke climbed into the sky while flames spread across the complex. The destruction continued for days. Buildings collapsed, collections vanished, and centuries of history disappeared into ash.
A young palace servant knelt outside one gate watching silently, seemingly exhausted beyond the point of tears. When I asked whether he was hurt, he slowly shook his head without taking his eyes off the fire.
My grandfather served here. My father served here. I grew up here too.
He told me his grandfather had served there. They are burning the emperor's home while the emperor is gone.
His words carried less anger than disbelief, as though reality itself had become difficult to accept or process.
Afterward came the Convention of Peking, another treaty imposed on a government that had exhausted its options.
More ports opened, additional territory changed hands, foreign rights expanded while new indemnities burdened the Qing state. The pattern repeated itself. Military defeat produced concessions, and concessions encouraged further demands from abroad. Elegant buildings lined the streets while Chinese workers maintained properties they often could not fully control or access. The deeper lesson of these wars extends beyond individual battles, treaties, or even the opium trade itself. They convinced many Chinese observers that their country had entered an era of humiliation and vulnerability. That memory survived dynasties, rebellions, revolutions, and governments because the experience touched questions of sovereignty. Long after the cannons fell silent, the legacy of these conflicts continued shaping political thought across China. When later leaders promised national renewal, they often referenced the wounds opened during this exact period. The story begins with opium, but it expands into a larger struggle over power, technology, and global influence. It is a reminder that economic interest, once protected by military force, can reshape entire societies for generations. And standing amid the aftermath, watching smoke rise over shattered histories, I understood why these events are remembered. The palace is gone, the treaties are signed, the warships have sailed, yet the consequences remain impossible to erase. If you ask what I saw an empire resisting change, another exploiting weakness, and millions trapped between them. And that is why Canton in 1839 affected me more than almost any battlefield I have ever visited through time. Like and subscribe if you want to know where I go next. Drop it in the comments. I read every single one.